kind of the Toyota car culture in general. It's not much of a challenge to own one of these things. You just get in, you drive it, you bring it, you lift it, you drive it off-road, you break your CV axles and blah, blah, blah. You know, just owning it is not in itself a challenge, which again, kind of bores me. Howdy, and welcome back to the Addicted Motors YouTube channel. My name is Troy, and today we're going to talk about my 2004 Toyota Land Cruiser. Now, over the past 4 years, I've kind of grown this channel from pretty much nothing to, we've got almost 10,000 subscribers now, which is pretty good in my opinion for something that I do as a hobby that kind of generally is my passion. But I want to talk about this car specifically because this was my first enthusiast car purchase. And just like Doug DeMuro, after 10 years of ownership, well, he didn't have it that long, I'm planning on selling this car. All right, so let's talk about Toyota Land Cruisers. And let's start at the beginning. I think my infatuation with this particular car probably started at a younger age. I had a friend, parents had Land Cruisers, and they were always touted as the best, and they always had nice things. They had an LS 430, they had an SC 430, they had a LX 470, and a 98 Toyota Land Cruiser. So I kind of grew up riding around the things, eventually when he was in high school, off-roading in them, and just really, you know, coming to the realization as a young auto enthusiast that they were the best. And I probably still agree with that statement. So, and I guess I consider this my first enthusiast car purchase. After I graduated college, I bought a 2003 V8 4th Gen 4Runner, which at the time was pretty spicy. That was probably based off of a childhood car, and the car I drove when I was in high school, which was my dream car at the time. It was, again, a V8 4th Gen with a supercharger on it and an ARB and a winch. And that thing had an exhaust on it, and it was unreal. I drove it around for a day after detailing it, and pretty much fell in love with that kind of, you know, it's got the four-wheel drive system in the 4.7 from a Land Cruiser, but in a smaller, lighter package, which was the 4th Gen 4Runner. So pretty cool. I don't care who you are. That's a pretty interesting offering from Toyota. But this particular Land Cruiser I bought in 2014 or 15. It was for sale in Colorado. I flew up there, bought it, drove it back to Texas same day, and then consequently spent the next 6 or so months driving around the country. I used to build wind turbines, so I was mobile all over the place. So this was the car I was using in the off season to get around and back to Pennsylvania. So it eventually ended up down here with me in Richmond. I bought it with 12,000 miles on it after they'd just done the timing belt, water pump, and all the 100,000+ mile service items. And I searched around for a very long time for this vehicle. This is something that I really wanted. I had watched a lot of videos of, believe it or not, the Camel Trophy back in the early stages of automotive research, and then obviously had been indoctrinated into the mud forums and all that with the 4Runner. But you got to have the Land Cruiser, right? This is the best. So if you're going to buy the best, just get the thing you want. Don't settle for something a little bit not on par, because you'll spend more money eventually chasing the best. So just probably start off with the one you want. But let's talk about use case. So I bought this car because I wanted something to jump in and go anywhere. Again, I would work for a month or so at a time, come home, jump in this thing, and this would be the thing I want to do adventures with, road trips with. I had grandeur of going out to Moab, doing 100s in the hills in Uwharrie, California, or Colorado. But none of that really happened. So I've spent the last 10 years so much just driving around in this truck, and I've loved it. This is the car I spent the majority of my life in. All my major life events have happened in it and whatnot. But now it just kind of sits for the most part. It's not because I don't like driving it or it's a bad experience or anything like that. I've moved on to other things, and I don't need this type of reliability in my life. It's a little bit boring in that sense. It's the perfect spec truck. I really wouldn't change much about it, but things change, time changes, and your use case changes, and this just doesn't fit my use case. I don't need something I can jump in and go across the country or go off-roading or haul all people and stuff around anymore, because I'm local. I've got more of a family, and you know, I have other things I can drive. So let's just talk about this particular Land Cruiser, right? It's got 147,000 miles on it. Again, I've probably put 40 of those on, which is not too bad. All the maintenance is pretty much up to date. I've done all the things to it. Like I said, this hasn't been extremely cheap car to maintain, that's for sure. I've done some of the major items. I've done valve cover gaskets. I've done front control arm bushings. I have done exhaust manifolds, at least on one side. I'm pretty sure it's the hard side. Maybe it's the passenger side. I put tires on it in 2019. I've done lots of alignments, lots of wheel balancing. It's got new OME front shocks in the front that I did once we were doing the valve cover gaskets, kind of while we were in there. They were fine previously, but I just did it because, you know, that bumper and winch do weigh a lot. Oh, speaking of that, I've also added an 8,000 pound Warn winch to the setup. And I don't know, new brakes, all the fluids, just all the stuff that you do when you really like something and want it to always be in tip-top condition. All right, under the hood, we've got the 4.7 2UZ FE 4.7 liter V8. Like I said, I've kept the engine bay pretty neat and tidy. It's got a new battery. Engine oil still has a lot of life left in it. Like I said, the timing belt and water pump were done, you know, 40,000 miles ago. I have deleted the rear air just because those lines were leaking. I didn't really need it that much anyway. And that's really it. The truck hasn't needed anything really engine related. Like I said, that was pretty much all done prior to me purchasing the car. So I've just tried to keep it in good condition and just kind of keep everything up to date. But it's neat, it's tidy, it's not very rusty, and yeah, it always runs. Now, you can't talk about a 100 series or Land Cruiser without talking about rust, and let's talk about that real quick. Since I've owned the car, I have very much kept up on any type of rust remediation that's been needed. It was originally a Texas truck and then Colorado, and since then it only spent about a year in Pennsylvania, but in that time period I have, and every year do, maintain the frame as a wear item almost, because that you really have to do that. These Toyotas, they rust oddly. And if you don't stay on top of them, they can kind of rust from the inside out. So fluid film on the interior of the frame rails. I'm a big Eastwood guy, so the Eastwood 3-stage frame treatment is what I've done. I've sanded the frame and done the 3-stage rust reformer, remediator, and the top coating, not the rubberized top coating, the normal top coating, because again, I hate mud. Listen, I know what you're gonna ask. All right, so under there, all pretty nice and tidy. Like I said, I've gotten in every nook and cranny. I haven't just overall coated, sprayed everything, and it's held up. It's held up very well. Everything is nice and presentable and coated and treated and all that. Oh, I forgot, I put ASFR skid plates under there because my cats were stolen during COVID when that was a big thing. So looking under there, all the major areas have been addressed and treated and all that fun stuff. So, all the questions that I'm gonna get asked. Frame looks pretty good. All right, jumping inside the truck. Also, I think it's in very good condition. I put these wet oaky seat covers on it. I'm not a big seat cover, well, I wasn't, but I guess I am now. And they're kind of form-fitting with the matching gray piping. Man, they're over 9 years old now, and they've held up very well. Great investment. These things were $300 or $400 new, which at the time was a lot of money. And they've really helped protect the seats. I think there's a slight tear in the side of the driver's seat, like they all get from being extra compression-y on the side of the hard bottom there. WeatherTech mats, all in good shape. Floors don't get wet. I spend a lot of time unclogging sunroof drains to prevent that kind of stuff from happening. Back seat, also in good condition. Again, WeatherTech mats back here, and even got third row. All right, tailgate. Again, little tiny bit of rust starting that I've treated around those little bolts, but that's pretty common. Everything else looks good. The tailgate itself has no rust. I have got the third row. I've got a set of lower control arms right here that I bought before I realized you could just do the bushing. So they come with the truck. That's a higher dollar option if you want to install them. But the carpet, everything's nice and dry back here. Third row is comfortable and not comfortable, but it's there. All right, let's fire it up, take it for a little drive. That reminds me, I also did the oil pressure sensor and sender line. That wasn't working when I bought it. But yeah, 147,000 miles. I just put 12 miles on it recently, just from driving around. But engine, very healthy. Like I said, the transmission, transfer case, engine, all the functions, they all work pretty flawlessly. All right, so let's take this on a little drive. Now, the truck has and had old man EMU, I think a 2-inch lift when I bought it. So it's springs and shocks. Definitely adds a little bit to the ride, or detracts from the ride quality. It's a little bit of a harsher ride compared to a stock one on stock tires, but I've got oversized tires and a lift, so you know, not much to report there. Everything's nice and tight, no clunks or noises that are not as they should. Like I said, you know, the power button works. These things aren't fast. It's actually, compared to an 80 series, it probably feels quick. Let me put my foot into it. You know, these 4.7s, I do like to just a big heavy truck. I mean, I've got these huge 305, 65, 18s on there, so that probably doesn't add to the performance prowess. But, you know, the advantages to having non-air suspension on a truck is you know when the body roll will end. You know, it loads up and it stops at a specific point. So again, the truck feels and handles very well. I've also replaced the steering rack in the past 5 years. One of the sensors had gone bad and it had started to leak, so that was a higher ticket item that has also been remediated. But you know, it brakes, drives just as it should. I've always, again, I've wanted this truck to be perfect, and I've done everything that's needed. Again, this is a car I've owned for 10 years. This is not a flip or anything like that, and I think it presents itself as such. Now, the exterior condition, I think it's in pretty good shape. The paint seems to be original besides the rear bumper. It looks like it's been painted. It's got some little scratches and dents and stuff all around. It's missing the little roof rail cover on the passenger sides. That blew off along with the factory spoiler somewhere in Iowa while I was driving during some high winds. And yeah, never really found the need to fit one back. What else? I can't really think. I mean, there's a few things that need to be addressed. The e-brake is currently pretty loose, so that needs a new cable or something. That's probably not that big of a deal. Oh, and the steering rack, even though it's new, has a tear in the side of each of the two front boots. It's not leaky or anything. It just needs new baffles, which I do have and can probably replace. It's not that big of a deal. But as far as maintenance and everything should be pretty much up to snuff. Now, the last thing to kind of discuss while we saunter down River Road or River Drive, whatever you want to call it, here in Richmond, is Doug DeMuro's recent video releasing that he is also selling his 200 series Land Cruiser. Now, I've done some comparisons between the 100 series and the 200 series, and you know, my conclusion is they're both trucks for different types of use cases. I didn't find the 200 series from a kind of a capability and usability vantage point to be all that much more improved. Yes, it's a better road car. Yes, it has more creature comforts, and it's probably a little bit more comfortable, more powerful. But as far as its Land Cruiser ability, I don't, you know, it still kind of drives like an older truck. This one, it still gets crap gas mileage, you know, hauls yourself and your people around, and does the off-road thing pretty well. So, like I said, the price jump, if you're just looking for, you know, an enthusiast vehicle, in my opinion, doesn't really quantify itself. His reasons for selling, I understand, but I think, again, his expectations were a bit high of a 10-year-old vehicle with 100,000 miles. Any type of vehicle does not like to sit for, you know, months at a time. without any type of startup. It is a human-made mechanical thing. There's nothing that really can, I think, satisfy that requirement, even with whatever amount of money you throw at it, unless you keep it either inside or on a trickle charger or have someone stop by any once in a while. Half the part of car ownership is maintenance and literally just touching things. I spend most of my day moving my cars around, ensuring that they start, ensuring the maintenance is good, and just kind of, keeping on top of things, just looking under them, checking the oil. It's not, since COVID ended or started, the whole world has become automotive enthusiasts. There's been many different new venues and outlets for ingesting automotive content, and I think a lot of people have now adopted the visual understanding of cars without the experience of ownership. And that, I think, unfortunately leads a lot of people to have higher expectations of mechanical automobiles than really happens in reality. So the reliability discussions and I guess the general aura and legend of some cars has really elevated past the normal ownership experience. And I think that's a bit of my frustration with Toyota is they have this reliability label, which is true, but anything that's 20 years old and has over 100,000 miles, I don't care what brand it is going to start having issues. And it's funny when people start getting frustrated with those things, because there's so many variables that can affect the word reliability. And I think a car that's driven often, and even if it's maintained a little bit less than one that sits more, could potentially be more reliable. But having a little bit of baked in tolerance for mechanical mishaps, and really just understanding and feeling the vehicle, paying attention to it, which most non-car people don't do, can really get you pretty far. I drive a lot of almost dilapidated, mechanically inept vehicles, but I'm able to do so because I'm paying attention to it. I'm understanding what it's telling me, and I'm listening to it. That sounds a little bit corny, but if you experience enough issues and problems, you are able to interpret them and find out in your brain and in the real world what will affect a car's drivability and what is something you can just kind of push away. And that is a fine line to walk, but I feel like it is something that most car people, right? A lot of people consider themselves car people these days. That's a little bit of the separation there, especially if you have to pay someone to do all of the work that's going to be needed to get something up to that certain stature. And this has been a little bit long-winded, but it's kind of what happens. I'm a little bit burnt out, I guess, on a lot of the car culture stuff, and I think that really comes with the kind of the Toyota car culture in general. It's not much of a challenge to own one of these things. You just get in, you drive it, you bring it, you lift it, you drive it off-road, you break your CV axles and blah, blah, blah. Just owning it is not in itself a challenge, which again, kind of bores me, which doesn't bore most people. But I think where the Land Rover thing has really sucked me in is I don't care how much money you have or how much you put in your truck, there's a little bit of, there's some pain for everybody. And that suffering, that little pain and suffering due to ownership, really makes that experience a little bit more interesting for myself and probably the other people that do things with me, and probably you as the viewer. Like I said, I've owned this car for 4 years. I've done not that many videos on it because it hasn't really needed that many videos, and I think people are already doing those videos, and frankly I think I find them a bit boring. So if you're interested in purchasing this boring, reliable Land Rover, low mileage too, honestly, it's a pretty darn good truck. Like I said, I get a little bit jaded because it's mine, but compared to some of the stuff that people are selling out there, it's pretty damn good. Like I said, this is a car that I've owned and maintained for the last 10 years to ensure that it's as good as it can be, and I think that means something. I'm asking around $25,000 for it, which I think is a pretty fair price for a well-maintained older Toyota Land Cruiser product. Say what you will. If you're interested in the truck, reach out to me at addicted.motors.us@gmail.com. So that's going to be it for this video. Thank you for watching. Please like and subscribe to all that fun YouTube stuff, and we'll catch you on the next video, which probably won't have a Land Cruiser in it. So catch you on the next one.